Okay, so now that we have our character set up for now, we have ability to look around, we can also move. Now let's take a look at something more interesting. We will start creating our interaction system. So before we dive into it, I want to explain how this interaction system will work. So basically the first thing that we need to do is to check where our player is looking at. Because this interaction system would work this way, that we need to look at the object that we want to interact with in order to interact. So how do we know where the player is looking at? Basically, we will just draw a line from our camera position forward. And where this line ends, this will be the object that we want to interact with. Let's see how we can do that. We will go back to our event graph and we will use a new built-in function called event tick. Event tick, as I said before, fires every single frame. So now we will create our first function. So on the left side, as you probably remember, we have functions. If I press this plus icon, we can create our own custom function. And this function will be called interaction trace, because we will trace from our camera to see where the player is looking at. Let's compile and let's go back to event graph because we need to plug this function into this event tick. Okay, compile, and let's go back to this interaction trace or double click this function here to open it up. So in Unreal Engine, we have this function called line trace by channel, this single line trace by channel. And you can see it's big, it asks for a lot, but I will explain everything in a second. Let's just plug this in. For now, let's just add some value to z. Let's do like 100 and let's click compile. Down there we have draw debug type. So we can just change this to for duration. So this line will be visible in game for duration of 5 seconds. Let's compile, save, and as you can see, on the middle of our level, we have this line. But why this line is here on the center? Because this line trace, it goes from point A to point B. So point A is 0, 0, 0. This is like the center of our world. And it ends at 0, 0, 100. So it goes up 100 units. That's why we see this line trace here. This point on the ground is this 0, 0, 0. And this point a bit higher is this point B, this 0, 0, 100. Now we need to assign our camera location to point A, and point B will be just a forward value from our camera. So let's see how we can do that. Let's just set this value back to 0. So we could just grab our camera from here and get its location. That would be completely fine, but there is a better way. We can get player camera manager. Get player camera manager. And from here, we can get actor location. It's pretty much the same thing as grabbing camera and getting its location, but it's just more efficient. And later, if we decide to change this camera, we don't need to change anything inside our code because this is just grabbing the active camera of our controller. And let's plug this into start and let's see what will happen. If I press compile and play right now, you can see that this line is drawn from our camera position. It's not that easy to see, but if I move, it is drawn from our camera position to this 0, 0, 0 point. But we don't want this line trace to go from our camera to center of this level. We want this line trace to go from our camera position just a bit forward. Let's see how we can do that. I'll just make a bit space here. So we need to use this forward vector as we used here in this movement input. We can get actor rotation, and from its rotation we can just get forward vector. So now we have this forward vector, but we can't plug this here yet because we need to add some value to it. So we can just multiply this by 200. If we multiply vector, you can see it asks for 3 different values, but we can just right click here and change this, convert this pin to float, and it will ask for only one value because float is a regular number value. So let's type something like 200. So we're moving this point B to forward from our camera by 200 units. And the last thing that we need to do is just add its location to this value. And now we can plug this to our end point. So if I press compile, play, you can see when I look down, we can see these little squares. It means that this line actually hit something. And you can see that this line is actually going from our camera forward 200 units. If you want to, you can type like 300 here. So this camera, this interaction will work further. But I think that 200 is pretty spot on. So I'll go with that. Yeah, works for me. We can change this draw debug type for one frame. And now this is just a single line trace. All right. That's how we do line trace. And why do we do this line trace? We will talk about it in the next video.